Awesome. So welcome, Hayley. So beautiful to have you here. And yeah, as I said, I just feel so blessed and so honored to have so many amazing people, women and people in my field who are living a life that lights them up. And you are definitely one of those people. You've become one of my nearest and dearest, even though we live on opposite sides of the world in the last 2 years. And I feel really blessed that you're in my orbit. And so I wanted to introduce you to my world today, all of the people, all of my friends. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel privileged and honored. And yeah, I'm sitting here in my freezing cold and you're sweating over there. So we balance each other out perfectly.
We do. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is how did you go from I know that there was probably a convoluted route, but I would love you to share how did you go from being a genetic engineer to a channel? Because they seem just like me naturopath, they seem like complete polar ends of the spectrum. So how did that happen for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. And so the energy work actually happened before the genetic engineering. So I've been a Reiki master since I was 17, which is 25 years. And that came about because, I was presented with a reality and a species that I found myself a part of that I just did not feel a part of. I just did not see how any of this makes sense. I look through I look at life as though through the camera lens. Honestly, I don't feel a part of this. And when I was little, that was really acceptable. Like I was a very flamboyant, eccentric. I would speak to unicorns. I would like get naked everywhere, not surprisingly. And that was accepted. And then when I went through, puberty, those things are less accepted. And so I started to learn that I was different and judge myself and realize that I didn't fit in a bad way in the eyes of my teenage self. And so I went on, a voyage of self-discovery to understand, well, what is it that makes me so different? Like, what is it that why can't I feel comfortable? And I look around at everyone else, and everyone's like happy in their own skin. They're getting up to go to school, and it just seems so natural for them. Why does it feel so unnatural for me? And so the energy work was a part of that, removing the barbed wire that was surrounding myself to feel more comfortable in my own skin. The genetic engineering came now. I mean, I was just intuitively following my intellect at the time. And so I did get like, do you want to be a doctor or do you want to be a lawyer or do you want to do something else? And I was like, yeah, well, I'm pretty smart. So, all right, genetic engineering seems good. And I was just following my gut intuition. Now looking back on it, it was a clear question about who are these people. I studied human genetics, and so like, what is it that makes these beings tick? Can I understand them on a atomic level? And no was the answer. uh, and so, I left university and then just left my entire life, and I went traveling completely by myself for 10 years, just walking this earth, feeling like honestly an alien walking on this earth for the first time, going, well, this is weird, and exploring really tiny little like mountain villages. I'm the first white person to have ever been to some of these places, and I really got to feel like the alien that I feel like I am, with these, Indonesian children going like, oh,
Mm.
what is this? And that was a projection of how I felt in society in general. And then, I really started to learn from every shaman and guru and medicine person and crystals and breath work and all of these bits and pieces as I was traveling around. And then in like the big major cities as well, like London and Paris, from more prominent leaders. So I was just picking up bits and pieces from everywhere, to put all of that together to do what I'm doing today. And
Yeah.
so
Amazing. That's so amazing. I love that story because I've never actually asked you to place it in that, kind of chronological order. And there's so many powerful pieces in there. And that aspect that you talked about, like when you were looking around at others and realizing that they seemed so happy in their body. And I remember having a similar sensation to that. And then realizing like a few years later, they're all just pretending. Like the reason that I don't fit in is because I can feel it, and I'm asking why, but everyone else isn't asking why, and they're just pretending that everything's okay. And so that was a real challenge for me when I woke up. But that aspect that you were talking about of going to all of these little villages and really allowing yourself to feel like embodying what it felt like to feel so different and to like an alien, that's so powerful.
Thank you. Uh, and yeah, I think part of what the resistance was is that, yeah, I can feel that you feel the same as me. But so how are you not being truthful about that, right? That's the resistance of where I didn't feel like, what is going on here? I don't understand any of this.
Mm, mm. So what was the next step for you? Like when you like what was the moment where you decided, okay, I'm actually going to make something, because what you've done obviously is bring all of the pieces together, which so many of us have done as well, bring all of the pieces together and say, I'm a channel and I work with spirit. Was there a moment that you can remember of realizing that that was what you were going to do?
It was COVID baby. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, after traveling for 10 years, I came across to Canada and wanted to explore snow and what cold and dark felt like. Because, really at that point, it was like, I want to experience everything there is to experience. And so I wanted to experience this. And then I was pretty travel weary. I was pretty lonely, pretty travel weary. I'd spent 10 years by myself, basically. And so I fell in love, and so I was like, cool, well, let's try doing the thing that everyone does, right? Let's fall in love and let's get married, which I did. Let's buy a house, which I did. Let's have a child, which I did. And none of that fit, right? It was just like this most ill-fitting pair of jeans, and of course it didn't last very long. But then having my son here put down roots, right? And it was him and him alone, that took me by the shoulders and shook me and said, what are you going to do with all of this, like, because if it wasn't for him, I would have just been la 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 la, like continuing around the world, and maybe I wouldn't have done anything, maybe I would have, but he was the one who was like, no, sit down, shut up, do your shadow work, look at yourself. And from that point, it was the desperate pain and darkness and suffering that I was running away from all those years, that I finally faced in the darkest place that I could have chosen. So I live in Canada near Alaska, like right up there. And so again, my internal world was being reflected in my external world of this dark, isolated, cold place. And yeah, giving birth to my son was the distillation and the collapsed into that moment of like, what are you going to do with it all?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the first company that I created was an adventure retreat company for women and their families to come out into the land, because this place is stunningly beautiful. It's very remote, right? Like it's pristine wilderness, which is absolutely beautiful. And so, yeah, bringing people out into the land. I was doing the energy work in the background. And then
Mm,
when COVID came and took away all of the adventure retreat stuff, I was left with like, well, who are you?
mhm.
And what are you here to offer, and how can you put it all together? And so it was again from suffering and from lack that I'm like, okay, time to rebuild again. And of course, I'm very grateful for all of these things, because if not, I don't know, where I would be right now.
Yeah. And such a great description of what the children do for us, don't they? Like really calling us to get clear on what is it that you actually want for your life. Like, do you want to keep running away from this pain, or do you actually want to be with it? And we don't have to choose it. Like we can keep running away if we want to and create more pain for ourselves. That's part of the beauty way. Like what you just described to me is part of the beauty way is actually choosing that pain, choosing to go into the shadow and into the dark places and realize that they're not scary anymore and that I don't have to run away from them. And so, that process in itself is so beautiful. What I wanted to ask you next was, so you've had all of these incredible experiences. You were helping other mums find themselves by taking them into this amazing wilderness and exploring their inner and their outer wilderness and their shadows and their lightness and those types of things. And you've brought all these experiences together. So what does it mean to what does it mean for you to be a channel?
Oh yeah. A friend, yeah, last night, in fact, reached out and said, "Have you ever had your human design done?" And I'm like, "Ah, yeah, someone did it, and I'm a generator. That's about all I needed to know at the moment." And she was like, "Let me do it." And I was like, "Yes, here, here." And she was like, "Oh my God, you are a channel." And I'm like, Well, yes."
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thanks for the validation tick. Um, what it means to me on a personal level is I'm a very curious being. And I always have been. I've studied quantum physics at a university level. I have my master's in genetic engineering, and I just absorb so many modalities and tools and techniques like holistic therapeutic and quantum healing and everywhere in between, so that I can put all of this together. Really, I'm a data processor when it comes down to it. And having accepted myself as that, I am here to observe. I am here to understand and put things together, and that's what I actually do for my clients now, because because I've been doing it my whole life. So being having access to universal information and not needing to like claw through other humans' work, I guess, other humans' like opinions and biases with like data, raw data, and getting it straight from the source is helping me. It just helps me feel peaceful. It helps me feel connected. It helps me feel happier here, because I remember that I am completely a part of this incredible tapestry and network of multidimensionality. And then last year, I tapped into my 12th dimensional self, which is the mantis. And for me, that is conscious mathematics, it's conscious geometry, conscious calculus. And when I lent into and allowed that frequency to come in, I was like, oh, well, that makes so much sense. And so it's allowing me to know myself at a greater level. It allows me to help my people at a greater level, and just the level of peace I've never experienced before, having access to so much information.
the what I was seeing when you were speaking was that level of purity that you're connecting with. So it's moving beyond any need to trust and completely tap into the knowing that's coming from you from spirit. And so all of the experiences that you've been talking about have actually helped to anchor you into this human so that you feel safe to be able to connect with the 12th dimension. Like you have to feel really safe to be able to be embodied and to access the 12th dimension. And that was what I was seeing when you were just speaking about the mantis and what you're actually doing. It's that purity that you're allowing to come through because you know you've done the work.
And that's been, thank you. And yeah, that's been honestly my human journey, is removing the distortions around the third dimension and humanity, honestly.
Mm,
It's like
mm.
having
There's a
the
lot.
it's a lot. Yeah. I've done some pretty nasty things to humanity as not a human before. And so, I've gotten to, and so here's the thing, right? The more I am open my channel, the more I'm able to access the things that I have done as not human that are not nice. I've done a lot of not nice things, and I don't feel any attachment to that.
Mm,
And that's a beautiful thing, to witness yourself do some nasty things and then forgive self. And now I have such a capacity to see others and their own challenges, within themselves, and to hold space for a really, really wide array of people.
Yeah. And that's it, forgiveness from the human level keeps our heart open. And so when you're accessing those layers from different dimensional layers and you're able to see them so clearly and you can forgive those layers, it's like the heart is just opening and expanding to whole new levels. So what is it that when you ground into your human, what inspires you about being here, being human? Like, why do you keep choosing? I know it's your son, like, but why do you keep choosing to show up for life every day?
You're such a good question, Oscar. It's what am I going to learn today? I'm that curious,
I
honestly.
wonder, right?
Yeah, yeah. Information, because I'm just sending it back to my people in the 12th, right? And when I get back up there, I'm going to be like, "Ooh, excellent." Because actually that's what they look like. Um, so yeah, it's honestly, it's curiosity of what am I going to learn that's new? What two things am I going to connect that never felt like they connected before? Oh, this is how they connect. It's like, how can I find the interconnectedness of everything for myself to feel connected and calm and peaceful, and like it just lights me up knowing how things work. I'm a real how person, right? Let's just see. And then helping other people have those like when new neurons are formed and you can literally watch someone it
Yeah.
happen. Like, I live for that shit.
That is
So yeah, so that, like, my business and in life in general, and other people and their lives, and how it's all interconnected, and just helping people put two and two together, and how
Mhm.
it can change someone's life. So something I'd never seen before to come into clarity, and now my entire life has shifted because I can see myself more clearly than I have before.
So perfect. And to think about, that you can remember as a child, like having these experiences of talking to these beings and then having to go through like being a teenager and like rejecting humanity, rejecting all beings, like, no, I don't want to, I just swore on my own podcast. And the and so I guess that's setting the tone, isn't it?
I think I've sworn a few times. I'm sorry. I apologize.
We can still swear when we're living the beauty way. Keeping it real, we are. And then coming to this place of, well, cool. I see all of it and I know that I've rejected it, but I love it now. And I love it so much that I want to keep showing up every day and I want to keep exploring and I want to share this joy and this beauty with others. And that's so inspiring just to think of it in that way.
Thank you. And yeah, I did along the way try to destroy myself many times, right? Through addiction, and through just recklessness, and through, homelessness. I've lived on the streets. I really did try and reject
Mm,
life many times,
mm.
only to be like, all right, let's start again.
When you were, when you're in the throes of a particularly intense addiction, can you remember something like a moment that dragged you out of that?
Mm,
You remember a specific moment?
okay, let me think on that. It was just a choice, honestly, because homelessness and addiction is so seductive.
Mm.
The dark is so seductive. I was happy on the street because I could not get any lower. I was scraping the barrel, and it is delicious down there. But
Mm.
there's just something within me, a tenacious something that just pushes me forward.
So I want to ask you about that because Like my husband and I have had lots of conversations about that, and I've not necessarily been one who's been addicted to that deliciousness of the dark in my lifetime. I have absolutely been to the darkest places, but I've gone there intentionally to understand myself to a deeper degree. And so what is it about it? Like when you say it's delicious to stay there in that, in that place, what is it about it? Can you give me like an understanding of that in a Haley way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, everyone who's in that place, there's no judgment. There's no masking up.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that's why it felt so good for me. No one is bullshitting me, and I'm sorry for swearing, but like there's no one masking up. Everyone is
Mm.
raw, everyone is
Yep.
vulnerable. They are exactly who they are.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And it just feels so right.
Yeah, yeah. There's no one trying to hide from exactly who they are. Like, so in that moment when you're in those places, those low vibrating emotions, like shame is the lowest vibrating emotion, yeah. You're not actually aware that you're experiencing that. You are simply present with what is to you in that moment of just being deliciously intoxicated, enticed.
It's giving into the darkness. It's because, and
Mm.
in recovery, yeah, I always thought that to be in the light was to resist the dark. Like I
Yes.
go right at all costs. I can't let the dark in. When
Yeah.
you're on the like when you're in the dark and you're leaning into your suffering, oh, it's like oh, it's a relief.
Yes.
I don't have to
Yeah.
resist anything. I am just who I am.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And thank you for putting words to that, because I know that there'll be people listening that will experience that. And absolutely, like I hold space for the deepest darkness in others, and you do as well. And so for me, it's been a really beautiful journey that I've gone on personally over the last few years with my partner, who at times was just like, I'm so I'm so in, like, I want to stay here. I want to stay in this place. Even like I think my light is lying to me at some, there was one time he said that to me. I think my light is lying to me. And so for me, I didn't necessarily understand that because that's not my makeup. And that hasn't been my earthly experience with my soul's choice. So I'm really grateful that you've offered that little piece of wisdom here today. And so now what I wonder is, like, how, knowing what the beauty way is, how do you weave that into your life in this moment and from moving forward into the future?
Hmm. So just for the last year, so I got to a place with my healing where being in a cold, dark, isolated, teeny tiny mountain village no longer felt good because, like, before it felt bad in all the right ways.
Mm,
And now it's just like I've healed enough and I want to be amongst the humans, right? And then it took me a couple of years to figure out what that was going to look like because I wanted to be with my son. I wanted to be the mother that I wanted to be and not abandon him. And it was a choice every day, let me tell you, to not abandon this child in this place. um, and so after looking at this puzzle, I love puzzles, right? For a couple of years, what I came up with was what we call nest parenting. And so currently, this is my lifestyle, where my son lives in the family house. And then me and his dad rotate in and out rather than my son moving back and forwards between houses. He stays in the house. Yeah, and then when it's my turn to have him, I move into the house and I spend 2 weeks with him. And then when it's my time to leave, I actually fly down to Vancouver into the city. And from there, I have an apartment, but I can also travel into the States. I can hold retreats, but I can be around the humans. And then Wolf's dad stays in the house. And then we do that every 2 weeks. We oscillate in and out, back and forwards. And the amount of emotional intelligence that this has required between my ex and I is astounding, and I'm very appreciative for him. Thank you to him. And it lets me live my life of duality, which I which I now absolutely adore. I get to be a mum in a small mountain town and go snowboarding and be that person, and the gregarious dancing to the 6 o'clock in the morning, running on the seawall, being with people, Hayley, the individual Hayley as well. And so the beauty way for me has been like, how can I live this life of everything again, like experiencing everything and being the mom I want to be, the Hayley I want to be, the human I want to be. and
Mm.
and the business just follows me wherever I go. I mean, I also have a van that in the summertime I just take off and I do client calls from the back of the van, and that suits me just fine.
So beautiful. And that is God consciousness. That is source consciousness, like source moved from its original location so that it could experience itself. And what you're speaking about is moving from that original location and experiencing the duality and the polarities of of who you have chosen to be. And that is that oh, that just makes me feel so good of living that completely expansive experience and embodying that into one's life. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. So because the beauty way is moving into those places where we are experiencing our vastness, and nature is beautiful even when she's doing things that could be judged as destructive or mean, or any of the emotions or labels that we want to place on it from a human perspective. It's like in full acceptance of, this is all of my human, and this is who she is, and this is who I offer to you in your life. And did you want to say anything?
I just wanted to say that I wanted to share that little piece just as like note to anyone out there who's feeling a bit stuck through their co-parenting.
Mm.
There are, like, what an audacious suggestion for me to come up with, and I let go of my own house here, where in the town, and I sold and gave away all of my possessions again. And my ex said yes, and then flying down to Vancouver every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
like the audacity of that situation. And I suggested it and I manifested it. And so I just want to inspire people to see, like, if you're feeling stuck, there are options, even though it might not feel that way.
There are options, and it comes with acceptance of self, doesn't it? It comes with that acceptance that I can have choices, especially if we've been a mum and we've given ourselves to the child or to a relationship. There's this acceptance that, no, I actually have a choice now. I have a choice to be able to do what I want and to be able to have it all. That aspect of having it all, and none of it is too good to be true. If I can imagine it, then I can actually create it, and then to be able to speak it and to allow it to move through me. And then I can look back at myself and go, wow, I'm actually embodying this life.
And thank you to the past Hayley for giving me the tools to
Yeah.
get over the mother's guilt and the shame and the guilt and the selfishness of abandoning your child, right? All of that came in hardcore, and I had the tools to transmute it.
Yeah.
Um, and so
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for all of it.
Yeah, no, I'm thankful for it, and I'm so thankful that that came up during this call as well. Um, and so when you would, if you're now standing in front of your 18-year-old Hayley, what would you share with her about her life?
Okay. 18-year-old Hayley. Hmm.
What advice do you want to give her?
I just want to say that don't change, don't dull yourself, don't dim yourself. and I know that you want to mask up, and I know that you're probably that she's actually on the other side of authentic, because she's actually like raging so hard to be like, look at me and accept me, right? And right. And you get to accept yourself first, and that's authenticity, not shaving your hair off and getting a septum piercing and pissing everyone else off. It could be, but yeah, it's really it's okay. You can stop trying so hard, I would
Mm,
say, in the
mm.
nicest motherly way.
Do you know that no matter what advice you've given her, she would be sitting here right now having this conversation?
What's that again?
Oh, did I drop out? So the question was, do you know that no matter what advice you've given her, she would still be sitting here having this conversation right now on her highest timeline, living this beautiful life?
She wouldn't listen to me anyway. She'd be like, "You're pretty cool because your hair's a bit weird, but."
Yeah, she would be living the beautiful life. And oh, what a gift. So is there anything else that you want to share with people listening? Just going back over the conversation today, we've talked about just embracing all aspects of experience. We've talked about like the joy and the pain that comes with being a mum, and the choices that you've made as a mum, and how that's a part of your beautiful life. And is there anything else that you could share with my listeners, with my friends, about living this beauty way, living this beautiful life?
So my perspective is that every single human is completely unique. I don't actually subscribe to we are all one. Yeah, we are all of one or of source, but actually we are all completely different on a vibrational and quantum level, completely unique. And it's finding the space that resonates. So I know you can't see my hands because you're probably listening, but it's creating a space that resonates with your structure, and your structure is that thing that makes you authentically yourself, right? And so finding that within yourself, and if you are a mother, we tend to give that away, and then when the children don't need us anymore, we're like, who am I now? And finding that which makes you unique, and then fostering that, and then creating spaces for that to feel resonant and comfortable and peaceful, and then perhaps even birthing something from that place, because that's my one of my missions, is that I can see that because we're all completely different, we have different things to be birthed through self. And all of your choices up until this point are all a story that can be woven into this one unique thing that is waiting to be birthed within you. And so and I'm so privileged that I get to witness that birthing with others. And that's what I want for you as well. I would love for you to find a place that's resonant with the thing that makes you unique.
Mm. Yeah, so beautiful. We are all unique fractals, and we're all just as valuable and as important as the other. And people, if they're watching on YouTube, they will be able to see your hands. So I'm just saying that now in case they're just listening. If they want to go and see your hands, they can go onto YouTube. And yeah, embracing. And that's the biggest thing that I've taken away from today. That's how you inspire me, is to you is you're such a beautiful beacon of those polarities, because I know you, and I've seen so many aspects of you through the time that we've spent together. And you know, and I know 2 years ago what you were experiencing, and to have seen you traverse that and to be living this such beautiful existence now. And of course it has its challenges. It Life has its challenges, and that's part of the beauty of it. But I'm just, that's the biggest thing I've taken away from today, is remember that it's so important to embrace all of it and to really experience all of it, to let ourselves feel all of it.
The deeper you go into the dark, the further you can go into the light, right? And so, yeah, let's experience absolutely everything. I agree.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with me today. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and I love you with all my heart.
I love you too.